Night 3 of The Last Dance is in the books, and man, this is going to be a great show tonight. I am pleased to be joined by ESPN's Midwest reporter. He is basically the writer for the Central Division for ESPN. His first year on the job. He is a fellow Flintstone and one of my close friends, and definitely one of the best guys I've ever been around. And it's great to have him on here tonight to talk about the Bulls. Mr. Eric Woodyard from ESPN and ESPN.com. Got to represent. He's got his Broncos hat on.
You see what it is, man. My son back here trying to get in.
Oh, little fella's getting in there. Ethan, Ethan's got enough airtime. He doesn't need any more airtime.
No, he don't need no more. He get more than me.
Oh, man, that kid's a star in his own right.
I represent my Broncos, man, all the time, man. So.
There you go, man. Well, dude, everybody's proud of you about everything you've done, and we're going to get into a little bit of that because we haven't had a chance to talk to you since all of this has happened here at the beginning of the NBA season. We'll do that later on, but first, Night 3, episodes 5 and 6 of The Last Dance just got done. We'll hit on a few things, but just your quick thoughts off the top. Man, dang near everybody is saying is episode 5 especially the best one yet.
Yeah, definitely. I thought these was back-to-back the best 2 episodes. Just the, amount of detail and just how open MJ is. I mean, for me as a kid, I just knew Michael through Airtime and Come Fly With Me and, kind of just seeing that side Space Jam, So I think this kind of humanized him, I guess, in a sense. And I got, more of a respect for him now, because it's a lot to be him. Everybody want to be like Mike, but, you really seen what it takes to be like Mike. This guy was getting pulled and tugged at from everywhere, man. That was kind of my biggest takeaways from that.
Well, dude, and you just hit on something. You're a couple years younger than I am. Not quite a decade, I don't think, but you're a couple years younger than I am. And the biggest thing to me out of all of this has been the chatter online, has been the fans' perspective. The young guys against old guys, going head to head in this thing. We saw Kobe Bryant in this episode. He said specifically, without MJ, there is no me. And they started episode 5 right off the gate. Jordan calling him the Laker boy. Right. And the Laker boy is going to try to take this game over, and I'm not going to let it happen. Just the chatter, though, we can talk about that, but the chatter of the young kids all either think Kobe or LeBron are the GOAT, and, you can make arguments, but then there's people like us that saw them play, and it's totally different for us. What have you seen on that regard? And I know you talked to a lot of the younger guys, and a lot of the younger guys in the league we've even seen. Trae Young, numerous other guys saying that same thing, man. What are you hearing from them, and what are your thoughts on that whole side of this? Because that's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is people just being reintroduced to Michael Jordan. You look at a guy even like Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm around the Bucks a lot. You see some of his tweets and how he's kind of driven from seeing this side of MJ. He was born in 94.
Right.
So, that's crazy. I was born in 88. But, I still was able to enjoy MJ and, understand we stood before. But guys like Trae Young and those, they never seen Mike. They might have saw a little bit of the Wizards Mike, but that's not real Mike,
No.
So – Kobe, kind of was that MJ. Even for me in my generation, man, I love Kobe. That's who I idolized coming up. You know what I mean? So, I think definitely this is like a reintroduction to MJ, and it's done in an authentic way. It's not like we just seeing, just the good all the time. We seeing both of what it takes to be like Mike. And it's it's challenging. You get all that money, but he's a human being just like anybody else.
Absolutely, and Kobe couldn't have summed it up better in today when he said, without him, there is no me. Because I said that 10 minutes into the first episode. I'm like, we keep hearing now after unfortunately losing Kobe, the Mamba mentality has taken on a life of its own. I'm like, man, guys, by the time this is over, this is MJ mentality, man. This is not Mamba. This is a different level even, man. And we're seeing that from that All-Star game where they were maybe pulling a Zeke and Jordan, They were trying to shut him out only on the defensive end.
Yeah, that was. I'm surprised like I say, I'm just so surprised that they left a lot of stuff on here. Because Mike had the last straw to say a lot of different stuff. So the gambling side and them showing him talking about Kobe in the locker room and Kobe ultimately gaining his respect. I think I'm just so surprised by that. But yeah, that mentality is something different, man. Mike, even Kobe said it. Mike competes at things that's not even relevant. This guy throwing quarters.
Right.
Off why are you even betting or gambling on that? That's crazy, man. What he paid, $57,000 to that other golfer or whatever?
Yeah, Slim, yep.
I didn't even know that. That's all new to me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I don't remember specific names. I didn't remember his name until tonight. But yeah, man, that was a huge thing. And still to this day, there are people that believe Mike was told by the NBA in 1993 he didn't leave because he was bored. He didn't leave because he was overwhelmed, his father passing away. He left because the NBA said, dude, you need to go away for a little bit. And
Yeah,
that's what a lot of people
that's the
still
rumors
believe.
that a lot of people, even a lot of veteran journalists behind closed doors, a lot of people believe it. I don't know. I wasn't around, obviously covering the league, but from talking to older guys, I mean, people say that all the time, but
Right.
who knows, man? At the end of the day, it's just he was such a phenomenon that all these speculations and tabloids were just coming out, so you never really know really what happened. So it's like, and at that time, he didn't feel the need to defend himself
Right.
all the time, so it was just different times, man.
Well, and he got sick of defending himself too. But it's going to be hard. You're going to see it in headlines all over tomorrow when people see him throwing quarters with one of the Smith brothers out there, like it's dice in the bathroom of, name the high school or whatever. It's going to be hard to argue that he didn't. That he didn't.
Though.
I mean, that was crazy. And the interview, though, really stood out as well. And we've heard him say that since. I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competition problem. Yeah. And just your thoughts on that. And that's really been obviously the story of this entire thing. And you mentioned he had the last laugh on this, or the last say. He could spin whatever narrative he wanted to. And every single thing, that's what the tapes show, man. This dude will not let you beat him at anything.
Nothing, man. And I think, he's getting older now, so he probably like, I'm tired of hearing all the speculation about my life from other people. And he probably just like, I don't care at this point. He back smoking his cigars, drinking his tequila or whatever he got. And he just, he tired of probably addressing the same stuff over and over. The Republicans wear sneakers line and a lot of things that's, really not hurt his reputation, but I mean, like, humanize him in a sense. And I think, this is just an opportunity. He like, hey, man, I'm just showing who the real Michael Jordan is, and hate me or love me at the end of the day. And I'm honestly enjoying it, man. It's like the real deal, like Michael Jordan.
You being a guy who was a very young kid, I was a teenager through those years, all 6 of the titles. You being a younger kid, and now you know a lot because you're a student of the game, and you obviously have to be. What are you taking away from this? And when we lost Kobe a couple of months ago, you let everybody know you're the biggest Kobe fan on earth. That's how I actually met you. For those who don't know, you were covering a game for Slam Magazine. I didn't even know who you were. We got sat right next to each other. You were at Western, right? You were driving from Western.
Yeah,
you come over. I'm sitting next. Yeah, you're like 19, and you're like, oh, Mr. Slocum, whatever. I want to be an intern with you. I'm like, well, who wait a minute. You're already writing for Slam. You don't need me, big fella. What? So we go in the locker room, and you're like, I want to take a picture with this. Can you take a picture of me and Kobe? I'm like, bro, Kobe's going to – good luck, buddy. Kobe's going to eat you up, bro. You're going to learn hard quick. And he was like dapping you up. It was like I can't believe this, man. So anyway, that's how you and I got acquainted. And then you did intern and blah, 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 and the rest is history. Now you're writing the Central Division for ESPN.com. Your thoughts, though, like we mentioned earlier, about the whole debates and whatnot. What are you seeing from this that maybe changes young Eric's mind or should change other young whoever's minds right now?
I mean, you really see who the big dog and who the little brother is. I mean, it's just a fact. For me, I love Kobe. That's my number one personal favorite player of all time. But I mean, I feel like in some ways Kobe has more skill than Jordan in different ways. Like, I feel like Kobe was a better ball handler. He could shoot the 3-ball better. Maybe his footwork was a little better, but that will and that desire to win from MJ, it's just like nobody can match that. As great as LeBron is, and many different, statistics than Mike and all that, it's just that killer instinct, that dog that Mike had to win in everything, even shooting, quarters off the wall. I mean, like, this dude want to win at everything. So I think, you cannot, like, that heart of a champion, that will of a champion, like, you get chill bumps watching how competitive this guy is, man. And, how driven and determined, I'm taking one suit to Phoenix. That's what he said tonight. Yep. I'm taking one suit. So, we're not coming back. You know what I mean? So just that type of determination, I think you can put that into your everyday life. That don't take nothing away from Kobe Bryant and what he means to me. And I sit back and laugh about that moment sometimes. But I was so driven in that night. I'm around Kobe. I don't care, man. I don't know if I'm ever get a chance to have this moment, which I never got a chance to meet him again. But just that moment, and I kind of took a piece of Jordan and Kobe in my life and trying to, better myself and will myself to the level I'm at now. So that I could take that side of MJ more than anything.
Oh, well, and you did. I've told everybody that ever come across, you're the best intern we ever had. You're the most determined person that I've ever seen. Swear to God,
I appreciate it.
An intern, and he got put on TV without sparing everybody the whole story. We'll save that for the Eric Woodyard podcast. For this dude, we got screwed on a story one day, and it was a paid story that we had to have something that day. We got screwed at like the last minute. And this dude is at the place for like not even a month. He shouldn't even be editing entire stories yet. And he's like, I got a story. Like, huh? You what? And it went on the air that day. On the air that day. I mean, this dude just worked his butt off. You got some of that too, man. And I can't believe that's the only time you came across Kobe, huh?
It's the only time. I mean, I seen him at going to Pistons games and watching.
Right.
But never like in a locker room setting or nothing like that again. So for me, I take that moment, just because I idolize Kobe. You know what I mean? We all did. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm a fan of basketball. I don't feel like you shouldn't be reporting if you're not a fan of basketball. We got so many reporters now that act like they don't love the game and, try to be so full of themselves. I think, now, man, if you don't love the game, I'm really not respecting you. If you're not debating with your friends, about who the greatest is, or you don't have a favorite player, I'm not respecting you as a reporter because you don't love the game how we love it. You're just doing it. So I'm not ashamed to say that, at all, that, I'm a fan of these guys. I'm going to do my job to the highest level. And, it's fun debates, man. I love those debates, man.
Absolutely. And I know you have them on the road. And since we're talking about work, let's talk about work. Because a lot of this today was about Mike getting worn out. The gambling issue obviously weared on him. And those Bulls, especially the 96 through 98 teams, were the Beatles. Before the Warriors were that, before the Heatles, these Bulls were that, man. And you saw a little bit of that. Michael could not go anywhere on earth without people being all over him. Tell me a little bit about that and work and maybe what a little bit of what Jordan goes through. You cover Giannis right now. You were in Salt Lake City before this in a smaller area.
Yeah.
And what that is like out there for those guys when they are the only game in town. Just talk about that a little bit and what you have to do as a beat writer. And, us in the media, we're always the bad guy.
Right.
But you're not doing your job if you're not hounding these guys all the time, especially back then when there were all these crises going on, when there was gambling issues with a Rodman issue, Scotty issue. Man, just tell me could you imagine covering things like that and just talk to everybody maybe just through your day, man, what you have to do.
Yeah.
You got to be on dudes.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, when I was in Salt Lake City covering the Utah Jazz for 2 years, I was a everyday beat writer. So I went to every single game. We were seeing guys so much to where, and I was Donovan Mitchell's first 2 years. So he went and won a dunk contest. The first year they advanced to the playoffs. You're around these guys literally more than you're around your family. So, I mean, at some point you're like, man, I'm tired of talking. I don't even want to hear – you hear the same stuff so much. So you got to start getting creative. Some guys feed off controversy, some don't. So people trying to search for things all the time. And these athletes are getting pulled around all day. I know they make millions, but at the end of the day, they're human beings. I mean, you got to keep that in mind. Even Giannis Antetokounmpo, the reigning MVP of the league, people just own these guys all day. They want a piece of them. So imagine you waking up, you got all this money, but you can't even go nowhere without 1,000 people asking for autographs, trying to, you say one little thing that goes viral. And, it's a lot that they have to do with. It's not the poor athlete's feel. It's just like humanizing guys. And I don't think, some people can't really understand, like, these people are human beings. Even with your job, I mean, we're hounding you all day. Like, a lot of the people in the media might not have played basketball, but they're picking out every bad thing in your job every day. Imagine us every day if somebody just picked out of our job every single day. And I think you see the good reporters from the great reporters because they understand it's a fine line. Like, obviously push the envelope, but, like, it's got to be a balance at some point. So I think once you can humanize people and talk to them on a normal basis, they have more respect, and you see those type of reporters get the most information.
Right, and it's tough because sometimes you do have to call guys out. You got to. and you still then have to ask them for an interview tomorrow, or you still got to ask them about something else tomorrow. And that's tough, man. You and I were talking off camera, man. There's plenty of times where I wanted to do this with an NBA player, and they tell me, oh yeah, I got you. And then they don't got me,
you know what?
And
all the time.
And I don't want to bother them again, but I have to bother them again, or I'm not. I mean, you have to swing and miss sometimes, man. And it's tough, especially if they're mad at you for something. And I'm sure you probably had a guy or two mad at you here or there, pulled you aside, or call you out in front of the locker room or something. But that's part of the game, man. And I just can't imagine where if you're Jordan, there's 50 of them every day. There's not just the Salt Lake, 2 papers, man. There's every paper and every TV station on earth following you around every single day, man. That's got to be crazy.
You can't make it not. You can't do nothing. Like, you seen him in a hotel room. Like, you can't even go outside of his hotel room. Like, literally everything you do is just like you're a fish in a bowl almost. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, but you respect them. You respect the guys who come out on top and can do it at a high level. You have to respect a LeBron James. You have to respect a Kobe Bryant and guys who deal with it every day, especially now in the social media era where it's even worse. Like, now, I mean, like, LeBron literally cannot do nothing.
No.
Like, Jordan got a little leeway where he can go 2 weeks. I think they said he went 2 weeks without talking to the media.
Right.
LeBron do that nowadays. Like, it'll be chaos, man. Like, everybody be ready to burn LA down. So it's like, it's crazy, like, to understand what athletes deal with today and what they deal with then too.
Dude, I've said it every single week so far. He wouldn't make it in Twitter world, man. He would not make it. Could you imagine going to Atlantic City in between games or after the game, whatever the heck it was? Man, every person, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
Twitter, it'd be 3 a.m. and he'd be the #1 trend in the world, and it'd be nothing but pictures of him in the casino.
Right.
I mean, it would be just insane, man.
It's a different world today, man. Like I said, you have to respect the current athlete. I respect the athletes back then and, both eras, but I think nowadays, as far as with the media attention, it's even more crazier. I think some ways they probably couldn't even handle that back in the 90s, though. So, now they're kind of getting the rhythm to, maybe, 5-minute media availability. Back then, just imagine, stuff was probably going 20 minutes easily.
Right.
It probably wasn't no last question and stuff like that. I wasn't there. I'm just imagining how it was.
Yeah, I mean, I can only go back to 2000, and the only time I ever covered Michael Jordan was when he came back with the Wizards. I was in college at Grand Valley, and they happened to be playing the one preseason game they used to play every year at the Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, and he was there, and I'm an intern. It was
crazy.
The greatest thing ever, man. And, the whole state and everybody is there to cover him at this one game, and they had to have his media session. The away team, now, in the middle of Grand Rapids, nowhere really, and he has the podium. They set up a podium specifically for him. There had to be over 100 media in there.
And that's in Grand Rapids?
Yeah, for preseason game number 5. It was stupid. Yeah. And with the Wizards, not with the Bulls.
I was talking to, when I was out in Utah, it was some veteran reporters out there, and I used to always pick their brains about, that 97, 98 series and the 96, 97 series when, the Bulls and Jazz played. And some of the veteran reporters out there, his name was Brad Rock. He would always tell me, like, Mike was really cool to him, though. Like, Mike remembered media members' names. Like, he went and, like, interviewed them pregame, which would never happen now. You would never get LeBron James in the locker room pregame, like, one-on-one. No. It was, like, those type of situations would happen. Like, some reporters could request interviews with PR, and depending on, what status you were, you can get out and have a lunch with Michael Jordan and getting one-on-one, like stuff like that. So that's like not even on the level of NBA entertainment and stuff like that. That's just like normal Miami Herald or things like that, let alone a national, platform. So I can't imagine just like how much that has to wear on you, man. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, no doubt. And, what we were saying before, people don't realize that there's morning shoot around. And not everybody talks every morning, but there's morning shoot around. The head coach talks, and then head coach talks again before the game, 2 hours before the game. I don't know what changed between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., but something did. And so he talks again, and the locker room is open. Most of the stars do not talk pregame unless you have something set up. But the locker room's open. You can go in there and bug whoever you want to go in there and bug. And then it's open postgame as well. And that's every day, man. And then if
Yeah.
there's just normal shoot around on an off day, I mean, yeah, these guys are constantly. And who doesn't want to talk to Michael Jordan every single
Right.
time?
Every single time, every single city, Mike is getting, hounded by media. So I can imagine, like you say, even in Grand Rapids, like that's no disrespect to Grand Rapids, but I'm just saying,
No,
like, yeah, it's just crazy, like how much attention this guy is, receiving.
no, yeah, it's just the fact that it's not the NBA city,
Right.
and there was more than Grand Rapids media there,
Right.
I mean, everybody was there. It was insane. How about a couple other things, dude, that stood out to you tonight? Once again, we get into the Isaiah Thomas stuff that has dominated headlines all week long. Zeke is my boy, my favorite player of all time. He probably has said he's gotten some respect, but he said some things this week maybe he shouldn't have said. Jordan is his fourth player of all time. It's a little insane. And I was watching Arsenio, actually, for some reason. I got all these old Arsenio clips on YouTube, and Jordan is on one from 1990 before their playoff meeting. And Zeke was on like the week before. And he said, "I'm sorry, Larry, and Magic's my best friend, but that dude's different, man."
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, you saw that? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Apparently, he does not believe that anymore. And that was before he ever won anything, dude. That's before the 6 titles. So apparently, Larry Bird with no back has done something to leapfrog Mike at that. But that, again, man, what'd you take away from that today? Because we got the whole did you leave him off the dream team thing today.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is stuff we've seen. It's stuff from Michael Jordan airtime, and it's stuff from the Dream Team doc. A lot of people haven't seen those, though.
Yeah, it was great.
What do you think about what we did see and what he said about Zeke? Because he said, again, I didn't do it.
I didn't say it. Yeah, he didn't say it, but he strongly nudged, like, hey, I think it wasn't just more Mike, though. I feel like it was everybody. The Bad Boys was just kind of outcasts of the league. They created so many enemies, and I feel like, guys just didn't want to play with Isaiah. I think, that they had so much intimidation into guys, and it was real deal rivalries. It was real deal fights out there. So it's like hard to separate, like nowadays where like a petty argument is different. It was real fights on the court. It was real war. So it's like these guys, even all these years later, still got this grudge against each other. I think I was more shocked that Mike publicly said he's the second greatest point guard behind Magic.
Yeah.
I had never heard him. That was something I actually never heard
as
him. As
much as I hate him.
he never said. I never heard Mike say that. So that was pretty crazy to hear him say that. I heard Stephen A. Smith on ESPN on First Take. He was saying privately he told him that, but seeing that on like actual coming out of his mouth, that was really surprising to me.
Right. No doubt. And he still says he won't, but we know Pippen has been on record saying it. Magic, you hear about them having issues. I never heard that they had issues then. I heard that stuff came later, but we know Bird to this day doesn't like him because when Bird took over the Indiana Pacers, the first thing he did, see you, Zeke, he fired him.
Yeah,
Zeke did well there. It's not like he was a bad coach. Boom, you're out, man. He bounced him right away. So, we know that guy didn't like him at all. It's still a shame, but, that stood out to me. Once again, hearing what he said, even though as much as I hate him or whatever the quote was.
Yeah, that was just real deal. It's crazy how, seriously, they took the game of basketball back then, and it's like nowadays it's so much different with, AAU basketball and guys being more accessible. But back then it wasn't like that, man. If you're not on my team, we're not friends. Even to this day, we're not going to pretend that we are. And, hey, it is what it is. And I respect it, though. That's how the game was.
Well, and the Bad Boys, man, and no one wants to say it around here because we loved them. They're our team, man. But, dude, everyone hated them.
I swear.
And some of the shots the Lambeer did take, there ain't no excuse for it. No wonder they're pissed. You can't blame them for being pissed. You can't blame Larry Bird for being pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely I didn't even realize that the Bad Boys was hated like that until I actually left Michigan. It took for me to go out of Michigan to understand hey, these guys aren't beloved. I love Isaiah, this and that, but it's everybody don't love Zeke like that, and really when I was in Salt Lake, it was the big debate, John Stockton and Isaiah Thomas all the time.
Yeah.
It was a couple of us that was vouching for Zeke, but everybody loved John Stockton out there. So that was always a big argument, but yeah, it took me to get out of Michigan to understand. I'm y'all don't like the Bad Boys? You disrespecting Isaiah? it's kind of funny now. I understand it, like not being in Michigan, why they feel that way.
Yeah, man. I've told this story too, man. I went to college and all my roommates were from Chicago. And my first year of college was 98. So, I mean, I loved Jordan at that point, but I love the bad boys too. And oh my gosh, I didn't realize it that much either till I get there and I got nothing but Chicago boys around me, man. I still hear about it.
That's crazy. He's from Chicago, gives back to Chicago, still around Chicago. Like, it's crazy. Like, they love him, don't get me wrong, but it's like they love MJ. It's Mike. So
yeah, it's a different love, man. Well, let's go back to being a journalist again, man. Could you ever imagine in a million years, Sam Smith, who is now the writer for Bulls.com and has been for a while, he was the beat writer back in the day. Sam Smith writes this book in 92 called The Jordan Rules, and it's like an expose on the behind-the-scenes dealings of Michael Jordan with the Bulls. And that's when we first hear that he fights with teammates. He's mean to teammates. He's kind of a prick, no one had heard it to that extent. Punching Will Perdue. Everybody now knows the Steve Kerr story a few years later, but punching Will Perdue, numerous things. And they come out today, and Jordan straight out says today, yeah, it was Horace. Horace told him everything.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I say, seeing Sam, around, I got so much more admiration for him having the courage to do that. I mean, Michael Jordan was arguably the biggest athlete in the world, and him having the courage to put that out there and not care about his, he could have been blackballed, honestly, like easily in this generation. You're right. One bad thing about LeBron, and LeBron retweet you and, show that he hates the article and your career suicide. So to see him working for the Bulls now and wrote the autobiography of Derrick Rose, still, being a relevant journalist, I think I got that much more respect for him, man.
Right.
I need those sources from Sam, man. I need those, man. Whoever was giving them to him, I need a little bit of that.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. And I can't even think now. Somebody just recently, I think it was NBA. I could be wrong. Just I don't take questions from you. Who's next? They just don't. They just don't. Yeah.
Russell Westbrook. It was Russ.
Yes, Russ. Yes, that's exactly who it was. Yeah, I'm not. Beat it. We're not talking to you. Can't believe that didn't happen. And now he's an employee of the Chicago Bulls. But you mentioned sources, dude. I saw a ton of tweets tonight talking about sources because Jordan straight out just goes, oh, yeah, it was Horace. It was Horace. And Chicago management thought it was Phil. And it very well may have been because we know Phil loves to talk to the media, man. Phil, to this day, will tell them anything.
Right.
We don't know who all it was, though. But I saw numerous tweets from journalists all around the country that said things like, 90% of the time when people think they know my sources, they couldn't be further from the truth. Like the ones they think it couldn't be further. And the one that it is right under their nose and they don't even know it. Talk a little bit about that if you can, and about sources and how you get stuff and how you hear stuff and then writing it and maybe pissing some people off, man, because that is part of the game that no one will understand until they're in it. Talk us through that a little bit, maybe on the national level, and then also because you were a beat writer in Utah.
I think the sources thing, it really comes from developing relationships. If guys feel comfortable with you, that takes a while to build. So a lot of the, veteran writers who've been around for years, obviously they're going to naturally develop sources from being around for years.
Right.
And I can't see that just being Horace as the one person that said everything. I think it was a collective effort, of probably a few people that was, coming back reporting stuff and knowing that he's working on a book and he's filing stuff, putting it away. Could have been front office, and they could have played it off like, hey, who told him this or who, it's a big game with that, everybody's trying to gain something, whether it's us doing it or whoever's telling us. They have an agenda. So it's like really like favoritism, whoever this person feel comfortable with, from developing relationships with, and that comes with time.
Yeah, well, and talk a little bit if you can. And again, I don't want you giving anything away because there's probably stuff you hear to this day. There's a lot of stuff we hear that you just can't ever say.
All the time.
Where does it come from the most? 'Cause I got numerous things going out at night and dude shows up and he's pissed about something and he just starts talking. Is it more players? Is it front office? Man, I don't think people realize it can be the security dude who sees everything, who stands next to the door every day, man. Can you give us, without giving anything away, maybe where it comes from the most and Why? What do people gain by telling you stuff?
I think it comes from it can come from anybody, but I think it takes a strong enough to reporter to understand what's factual and what's BS. You know, my rule is never just to go with one source unless
Right.
it's a direct person, you know, that's telling you. But yeah, I mean, it's not really like one. It's not just players or just front office or security guys, whoever it is. I think it's the level of trust you have to know as a reporter. This person is telling you the right information, because some stuff you just can't report, man. It's like if I hear this guy going out doing this or who he's messing around with in his free time, that's not for me to put out there. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to really balance what's important and what's not. And I think, like I say, sourcing just can come from anybody. Some people have reliable sources. Some people just put stuff out. And like I say, everybody has an agenda. So you really have to understand as well, are you being played in the process? You know, like, by you telling me this, like, what is, you know, is this factual? What are you trying to get out of it? And, you know, just a rule of thumb, I would say try to get more than one source.
Yeah. Well, and it used to be, dude, when papers were different than today, not in the internet era, not in the Twitter era, you had to have 3 sources or we're not going with it.
Yeah.
Like, you maybe witnessed it with your own eyes. You don't have 3 sources, man. We aren't printing this, man.
Yeah.
And it's so different now. And what you just said, to walk that line and be careful in Twitter now, because people want to tweet everything, man. You hear one little thing, you want to get, follow me. I got 1 million followers now. Look what I talked about. You know, that's such a thing, man. You can't do it. And like you said, man, this guy did have the facts. I mean, they can sit here and tell us all day that it's not true. All that stuff is true, man.
Yeah, stuff is true. It wouldn't be relevant. I mean, he wouldn't be working for the Bulls today. I mean, that stuff is true, man. Like, it is what it is. You know, whatever sources he had were incredible. You know, right. I respect him for. They said he was an investigative journalist before he got into sports, though. So I guess that makes sense. But yeah, man. I mean, it's a thin line. You know, some reporters, you know, try to make themselves the story a lot of the times, and I think that's an issue. You know, just report the facts. You know, if you're a reporter, if you're an analyst, that's a different role. But you know, a lot of people don't understand the difference between an analyst, a beat writer, a national reporter. Like, it's different types of reporters. Everybody's not just the same thing. So, you know, a lot of people don't understand that. And I think everybody wants to be relevant nowadays by, like you say, tweeting stuff out or trying to get their name across a ticker. Right. And I think if you just put out consistent stuff, that's the key to relevancy.
Dude, and those lines are so blurred now more than ever because of Twitter, because of what we're doing right now. Like, we're not reporting right now. We're just analyzing and talking and doing whatever. Because of what I do, because of look at the news channels, man. You got your reporters, and then you got your, like, Bill O'Reilly's and your Maddow's and stuff. They're like analysts. They're columnists. Like, people have no idea the difference, man. They have no idea the difference whatsoever, man. I took that away. That was huge, man. And, you know, just the gambling, man. You said yourself there was some stuff tonight. You knew, obviously, the gambling, but, man, there was some stuff tonight that you didn't even know about. Tell us about that and how big of a deal you think that is and was. And could you imagine having to cover that stuff today and having to go up to, you name it, Giannis, name a guy, and be like, hey, I heard you were at the club till 3 o'clock last night, whatever it is.
Man, I would be so uncomfortable doing that. You know, sometimes we are put in uncomfortable situations. It's part of a job, but, you know, something with a person's personal life like that, I don't know, it's difficult, you know, to really, you know, poke at that, you know, but like I say, everybody was trying to figure anything out because up until that point, all we saw was the Be Like Mike campaigns. We saw, you know, it got to be the shoes, Mike, the Nike commercials, the videos of Michael Jackson. The guy was so big that nothing to that point, it wasn't really nothing in his armor, no chinks in his armor at all. So, yeah, that was difficult. And I think, you know, that case probably gave it relevancy by him having to go testify in that court case because I didn't know that, you know, as far as with the gambling and him paying out $57,000 or whatever that was. So that probably gave that a little relevancy, but that would be a very uncomfortable situation to report in. But if it was me, I would just try to be as professional as possible and just try to act it in a smart way, I guess.
Yeah. Are you learning anything? And it could be anything. It could be job-wise, Jordan-wise, life-wise. Are you learning anything? Because you said born in 88, so you were 10. So you clearly remember those last couple Jordan. You remember the last shot and all that, man.
Yeah.
Probably don't remember the early ones so much. What are you learning, maybe, period, about anything?
Man,
Reporting, Jordan, you name it.
I knew so much about Mike, you know, from going back reading and everything. So like a lot of the highlights and a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, I just read that on my own. So I knew a lot about his career. I guess just like seeing those intimate moments of him being in like the room, smoking a cigar and just chilling and, you know, being exhausted, being tired. You know, I think, you know, that's just that behind the scenes access, not necessarily learning, but just seeing that. And as far as the reporting side, I'm always learning something every day. I'm like a sponge. Like I'm, you know, picking guys' brains. A lot of the reporters I see on the documentary, you know, J.A. Adonde, Sam Smith, you know, a lot of the guys I see around and I try to pick their brains. So it's cool to see them have actually covered that situation. Mike Wilbon, you know, all those guys. And I'm like a kid in the candy store, not only seeing Mike, but seeing the greatest journalists in the world, how they handle those situations. And Ahmad Rashad to relate, like, how do you get that tight with Mike? You know, and you were the NBC sports guy. I mean, that's phenomenal, you know, to be able to have that type of access. So I'm constantly learning.
Yeah, I should know that, and I've read about that, and I don't remember how they became so tight. I mean, if you're married to Claire Huxtable, maybe that helps. You know, I mean, that probably does help a little bit. Man, just a great night every single week. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be, you know, oh, how's it gonna top the Rodman story? How's it gonna top the Bad Boys story? And then they do today. And then the last thing we didn't talk about, which is kind of known, especially I know you know, being a sneakerhead yourself like me, may the fours be with you tomorrow, by the way. That whole thing, I don't think, you know, everybody nowadays, kids, hopefully they're watching and they look at that. And not that it's something they need to know or anything. You know, it's not really important, but there was a day before Nike, you know, Nike wasn't even really big at all, let alone Jordan brand. And, you know, that whole thing, how he came, Adidas, dude, I wanted nothing to do with Nike. I just thought that was really interesting. And how his mom, like, had to drag him to Oregon. He wasn't going. He didn't want anything to do with them.
Man, that's crazy. I think the moral of that story behind it, what I took is just like, you know, obviously the marketing and all that came along, but he put the work in. Had he not accomplished what he accomplished, all the sneakers, all the, you know, deals and all that, you know, it would have been irrelevant. So I think that drove him to, like, live up to that expectation every single night to be great. And I think, you know, that's what should stand out to kids. Like, sometimes you got to walk in your own path. You know, like obviously Adidas and Converse was cool and all that, but, you know, sometimes you have to take risk and walk your own path. And once you get the opportunity, how do you respond to it? Like, he took it to a whole nother level. So I think it was just the perfect marriage of just marketing and execution at the same time, because he put in the work every single day. Even in practice, you see how he wrote his teammates. You see how much he wanted to win, how driven he was. And, you know, I think that's just a perfect marriage of, you know, life coming at the same time. And, like, not only him being marketed in that way, Michael Jackson being in the same time. Like, you know, both of them, you see how the power of marketing really, you know, played into the role of these guys being how great they are in addition to the skill they have.
Yeah, you know, and you hear people talk about all the time, and it's probably true. The best thing that ever happened to Jordan and Nike was getting banned by the NBA. That's the best thing that could have possibly happened. But I never hear anybody talk about this, and I've never even really thought about it till right now. You know, you always say the first of everything is the best, or whatever, you know, whoever it is, name it. You know, the Beatles, you know, Run DMC, what, you know, whoever it is, the old dude is always the best at everything. But people have tried with other athletes, and they may have succeeded here or there a little bit. But you had Shaq with his shoes. You know, Iverson was for a minute with the Reeboks. You know, the pumps were big for a second. No matter who it is, the KDs are big, the Kyries are big right now. It ain't like this.
No, it's not.
It's not even, dude, if he's a 10, the next closest one is like a 2. There's no one even – maybe number 2 is the Converse that we saw the commercial in the thing today, man.
Yeah.
No one is close. So it's – I wonder if there would even be a thing called sneakerheads if it weren't for Michael Jordan.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think about that? I never even thought about it like that, because there wouldn't have been another one, man, because no one – they tried, and it hasn't worked. It has not worked with anybody.
Definitely. It's like I said, it was just really a perfect marriage. Like, and him being the first to do it, nobody ever saw that. Like mixing culture and sports. Like they said before that, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and those guys, yeah, they hooped, they were MVPs, but the swag with it, like the way Mike wore shoes and changed his sneakers every game, like it was so many groundbreaking things that he did, and not only just marketing the United States, going overseas. You saw the impact he had when they went over to Barcelona for the '92 Olympics, and
Yep.
Nike really did a phenomenal job of the marketing side being just as great as the actual player. And Tinker Hatfield, great designers. It was just so many iconic things that Nike stepped outside the box to do, and they bet on the athlete and built this guy up to be something so much larger than life, and he actually lived up to it. It was just like the perfect marriage. Yeah.
He went beyond what they thought, man. And maybe it tells how stupid and naive people were back in 1984, 85. But they literally said these got banned because they helped him jump. They made him jump. And people, they did. I'm going to be great at Flushing High School next week.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get me a pair of these. Like, they literally thought these were going to make you jump higher.
Yeah.
Because
they sold them, man. But if you think about it, when you get a pair of new sneakers, though, like, it's something about that feeling. So, like, by Mike saying that, like me switching out shoes every game, it made them feel like, just phenomenal. Like, because when you get a new pair of shoes, there's nothing like it. And like I said, their marketing campaign was just phenomenal. I still look at some of those commercials to this day, like even starting with the band, commercial and him taking flight and just the silhouette of the jump, man. Like everything was just, it's so hard to match that, man. Like he was the first to do it as well. So, it's going to be tough to top Mike.
No, dude. And I was a kid when it happened, man. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I didn't know many kids that had Jordans, but every time you go to Foot Locker, you like drooled at it. I remember, man, the 5s were the first one that forced too, but the 5s were the one that had that logo giant on the tongue. And I just sit there and look at it. I want these so bad. Like and I couldn't get them because they were $100.
They just came back out too recently.
Yeah, I got the grape ones without laces. You mentioned the swag, man. A year ago, the Fresh Prince has come out because he was one. He helped them. You saw the Fresh Prince wearing them unlaced, and you're like, oh, that guy, he's sweet. I like him. I want to do it like that. Yeah, and I was 9, 10 years old then, and you're just like, it was unbelievable, man. I got a pair of flights, and I traded with this dude at church on a Wednesday. He had the 4s, the red ones, and red and black. And he let me wear them one day, and we switched shoes. And it was like the greatest day of my life. Like I can't explain to you what that was like for a 9-year-old kid. It was just unbelievable, man. And I had a nice pair of flights, man. They were sweet, and they weren't those, though.
Yeah, I remember being a kid. My mom, my parents were pretty young, so, my cousins would go stand out of line, and she would give them the money to get me shoes. So I always had Jordans growing up. But what took a turn for me, actually not Jordan related, but this was the Jordan 12s, I believe. She sent my cousin out to go get them in black and white. And I remember this when Allen Iverson and Kobe kind of burst onto the scene. So the first Reebok questions came out. And I was telling my mom, I'm like, I want this shoe by this guy named Allen Iverson. The kids always know first who's going to be hot. So, I was telling her this guy is so good. And she was like, who wants Reeboks? Just like laughing at me like, I'm not getting you no Reebok. But by the time, the first answers came out the following year, she knew exactly who Iverson was. And, it was just a fun time for just sneakers as a whole. Like everything at that time was, the commercials were so funny, just so fun, just colorful and mixing, Looney Tunes in there. And, everything was fun. Not even just basketball, football at the time. I went back and watched the Andre Rison commercial he had with Nike, and just like everybody, it seemed like athletes were more branded, as individuals back then than they are now. Everything is so like through social media or YouTube now, but actually seeing guys on TV, that meant something for kids, especially.
Well, and it's oversaturation now, and as cool as Twitter is and Instagram and everything, the mystique is gone.
Yeah.
It totally is, because to see Jordan, if you had cable, I didn't have cable till I graduated college and moved home. We didn't have cable in high school, so I didn't even have WGN. If I had WGN, I would have been watching the Bulls every night. But even the Pistons, man, they came on Channel 50 once a week. We didn't have Pass. I got to watch one game a week. That was it. There was no TNT. There was no ESPN for me. Nothing. And when they were on a Tonight Show or they were on anything, man, it was a huge deal. When their commercial came on, it was a huge deal because you didn't get to see them all the time, man. You didn't have that access. So, you know, when you had a Jordan shoe, it was like you had a piece of Michael Jordan, like that, or whoever it is, you know, a shirt or whatever. This shirt I'm wearing right now, I told my mom that day, Mom, can we go get the shirts? They're going to have them. And we rolled up to JCPenney's and I got this shirt that I'm wearing right now. It was just different, man. Like, and that feeling will never be the same, unfortunately, because even though LeBron still is special, he's posting stuff of him doing crap all the time. So you feel like you know him, you know, and it's not as special, man. It really is.
That mystique is serious. Even like not only just sports. Like I think about me as a kid, you know, like when Tupac released All Eyes on Me, like you had to go to the store to get that. When he had this song hit him up, you had to go to the store to get that. I remember my parents like waiting for that. Now, like it's not that same mystique with like a Drake. No matter how big he is,
right?
Like think about Tupac's life from like 21 to 25. He accomplished all of that stuff. So without social media, so stuff lives on much longer. Like you said, we didn't see guys that much. So the same for Michael Jordan. Like you said, we didn't see him outside of, you know, a Nike commercial or, you know, Space Jam and things like that. So yeah, definitely the mystique is not there no more through social media at all.
And it was an event, dude. It was an event. And there's certain dudes that still do not do interviews and stuff. And I heard one time, this is going way back, Jack Nicholson quit doing interviews. He quit doing everything because he wanted that mystique. Like the unknown made him mysterious and there's something about him, made him special, man. And he never did interviews. He never did the Tonight Show and all that. Leo DiCaprio still does not, or at least he did back in the day. He hasn't since he became Leo, man. He doesn't do anything. And that's why when you see a picture of him, it's a huge deal. Oh, he's doing what? With who? I mean, I wish it was like that, man, because everything was an event. When you saw Mike with Spike, it was an event.
Yeah.
You know, even Air Jordan, like you mentioned, the commercials in 92, 91, 92 season with Bugs Bunny, man. It was big. Everything was big. It meant something.
Yeah,
every single time.
It's not that. It's just not that, you know, nowadays at all. And, you know, everybody wants that attention, you know, all the time, you know, trying to be relevant every day. Even if they're doing it, you know, unconsciously, you know, I think we all guilty of it sometimes. But, you know, that's just the generation we in now. And, you know, I think even now this coronavirus pandemic is kind of putting things in perspective for a lot of people, you know, nowadays where you understand that what's real and what's not, you know. So definitely social media plays a big role in, you know, people becoming the person that they want to portray, you know, to others. And now you got to really sit back and, you know, you can't hide behind stuff nowadays. So
no. Well, and dude, since you mentioned it, I want to talk about that a little bit too. But yeah, the mystique even has helped with this. This is why this is so big. If Mike would have been doing it, and he did interviews back in the day, obviously, and he was on the Tonight Show and things like that, but not very often.
No, not often at all.
And if he was, this wouldn't be what it is right now, 22 years later. But you know, you mentioned what we're dealing with right now, what we're going through. You are home. You're stationed in Chicago, and you're just going all over the place all the time, covering the Central Division, Detroit, Cleveland, Indy, Milwaukee, Chicago, and then whatever else if you have to travel and do whatever. But you're home. You're in Flint right now. You're still working, but not as much, obviously. I mean, I know you're still working phones and doing whatever. What has this done to you with work? What's ESPN like now? What do you do? How do you work now? Are you just like randomly texting dudes? Like, how is this going? What are you doing right now?
It's crazy right now. I mean, you know, communicating with guys, you know, not bothering them too much, but, you know, checking in with guys, you know, just checking in with agents and, you know, checking in with my editors and, you know, teams hosting virtual conference calls, you know, communicating with, you know, PR people from teams. It's just trying to really scramble, like not scramble, but just find things. I mean, communicating with guys, finding real stories. I mean, I did a big story with Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker, about a week ago, and just finding those things, thinking outside the box. And I think if you're able to be successful in this time, this really showing if you're a good journalist or not. Because, I mean, it's not easy, but, you know, getting access in the locker room, talking to guys.
Yeah.
If they say something, going to write that, that's cool. But can you find something unique in this time and actually get to guys, you know, especially with teams not being able to help like that nowadays because guys are quarantined in their own
They're
little
on
zone.
their own.
Yeah, so I
They're
think,
on their own. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it.
yeah, you seeing the real reporters really, you know, step up and rise to the cream of the crop right now. So it's a fun time, you know, as well. But it's also it's crazy. I mean, the unknown. We don't know if the season's starting back. It's just
Right.
it's so much, man. It's just a lot of time for reflection right now, which I think is good in some ways, very good. You know, to kind of get everybody to step back and see what's important and what's not.
Yeah. Well, are they telling you? Do you have to like write one thing a week or something right now? Is there anything like that?
It's just, yeah, you know, they're giving us stuff here and there, but it's really just working. You know, finding what you can. And I think, you know, you seeing the guys, if you check ESPN.com and, you know, any other national outlet, you know, you seeing guys still working. I think that's a, you know, opportunity to really see why you was hired and, you know, why you can be on this level and perform on this level.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about when it all started, because obviously it all started with a couple of guys that you are close to, that you worked with the Jazz for 2 years. And my gosh, this happens. And it happens with Rudy. And then Rudy is public enemy number one for, I mean, people think this entire pandemic is Rudy Gobert's fault, man. You
crazy.
took sports from us, Rudy Gobert. And obviously he did something stupid, but dude, none of us knew that, you know, what do you know? Have you talked to them, man? I know they're okay now.
Yeah.
Both he and Donovan are good now, but man, did you talk to them? What did they say?
Yeah.
And obviously there was some friction between those two guys a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you know about them, man? How are they doing right now?
Yeah, they doing pretty good. I think they're healing the relationship, you know, from everybody I know. I spoke to Rudy right after it happened and, you know, just told him I hope he's okay and stuff like that. He reached out and told me thanks and stuff like that. But you know, for me knowing people and talking to guys close to the situation still in Utah, it's still a working relationship. You know, it's getting better and better every day. I think, you know, once you make it through something like that so severely and somebody feel like you aren't taking it as serious as it should, you know, it's just all type of raw emotions at that point. And especially with this being deadly, you know, but me being around Rudy for 2 years, he's a great person, man. Like, and I say that from the bottom of my heart. Like, he's a really good person. He just made a dumb mistake in the public eye, but he wasn't the only one doing it. I seen other NBA players like joking around with it. Can I touch this? Or, you know, like, you know, joking around with it, you know, but his was just a bigger deal because he actually tested positive.
He happened to be the guy. Yeah.
But honestly, in a way, I think we should thank him in some ways too, because had he not done that, you know, guys could have still been playing it and it would not have been taken that serious. You know, so in some ways you got to, you know, kind of praise him for that as well, because that kind of, you know, really made people take it serious. And then you see Donovan catching it. Who's to say that Donovan didn't catch it before him, but just, you know, wasn't tested first. So you can't really put the blame on somebody with something like that. It's just the guy being the first one. Obviously, that's going to be public enemy number one. But, I mean, that should be water under the bridge, man. I mean, they're both young guys, both great guys. And it's just a lot of raw emotion with that situation. And, I mean, none of us – it didn't happen to neither one of us, so we're not sure how we would react either. You know, had we been behind closed doors and really saw what's going on.
Well, and you know, these guys, they were probably scared, man, because I wasn't sitting here watching the news every night. I heard of it, and I knew what was going on. I hear about what's going on in Italy, and people are dying and whatever. These dudes are on the road. I know they're not watching CNN or Fox or MSN every single night, you know, because they're doing things. They're on the road. They're living. They're playing. When you hear you have this, he probably – did Rudy just kill me? Am I going to die? Like, what's going – of course, you don't know what's going through that guy's head. So, yeah, man, I mean, I'd be scared too. Shoot. Just glad everybody's okay. And, you know, man, it sucks. It has to be Rudy. But you're right, man. Somebody always has to be the guinea pig, man. They always do. And if it wasn't him, it would have been somebody else. And you're right, man. It probably is good it happened that way because we found out, you know, they played the Pistons that Saturday night. Well, guess what? Christian Wood ends up getting it. He's the guy checking Rudy all night. So if they would if you would have played 2 more days, who knows what would have happened?
Right. And who's to say Christian Wood didn't have it first and he gave it to Rudy? I mean, with something like that, you just don't know. So it's tough to put the blame. But, like, I think people should just be like, hey, we were happy that it happened. You know, we prevented more, you know, for the virus from spreading to more guys. And to even referees, and things like that. There's so many guys that's involved with the game of basketball, outside of just the players and, even coaches and, trainers. And it's so much stuff, man, that, people just don't know. So everybody's just, like I said, this social media era, and once again, getting back to it, everybody has an opinion about things. And, they see the video of him touching the mics and all that. So I think it was just a combination of all of that at one time.
Yeah, no question, man. And yeah, you mentioned it. Once again, a Flint connection. That last game, I can't even remember what it was now. Courtney Kirkland. Yeah, Courtney Kirkland, Flint guy, who refereed the Utah game, and they didn't want to take the floor because of that. Just crazy, man. What are you hearing? I'm sure you're hearing all the same stuff we're hearing, that they hope to play in July. Disney World, man, what do you know? Yeah, I'm sure you're just hearing that same stuff, that's what they're hoping to be able to do.
Yeah, I think I think the biggest thing right now is, how can you return basketball when society isn't returning yet? I think that's the biggest thing. Like, how can you request all these tests when it's people that's really having symptoms? And how can you get 15,000 tests when 15,000 Americans who might have real symptoms can't even get tested?
Right.
I think that's what the battle is right now with how can you make a decision on the league when society isn't returning. And even from that, like, once society is returned in one area, it could be great in Georgia, but it can be different in Illinois or Michigan. And, it's so many different states that's doing different things with the governors and the mayors. And I think that's what they're, juggling right now. But obviously I heard the bubble of being possibly in, Disney World resorts or being in Las Vegas. But I read the big piece by Woj the other day, and, they kind of, told in a perfect world how it would have to go, right, in order for that to, happen. And that would be a tall task. In my personal opinion, I would be, kind of surprised if the season returned at this point, but anything can happen, but me personally, I would be shocked, and from a media perspective, how does that look for us? I mean, like, right, how can you prioritize one TV station over the USA Today or ESPN or, like, it's going to be a big thing. Like, how can you figure that out within a short window? So I'm interested to see how the commissioner gets through this. We know players want to play, but, what's the smartest thing at this point?
I'm glad you brought that up, man, because the last thing I heard, and this is probably – you won't be there. Like, they're talking that dudes are going to call the games like they do a lot of international games and whatnot. They do it from the studio or something. They're not in Croatia when they're calling whatever it is, Dream Team 32, playing whoever they're playing. They're going to be calling it right like this, on Zoom or something, in broadcasting it in. They're talking about cameras being robocams, which is plenty doable, and nobody in the building, no media, no Doris Burke, no anybody on the sideline, man. So, and I'm sitting there going, well, okay, so that means no ESPN. How are we going to do that? Maybe everybody does a Zoom call afterward, like a press conference.
Yeah,
I could see that, dude, where they got a laptop or whatever, and in comes Giannis and sits down, and there's 100 of you guys. I mean, that's what they did for the NFL draft with a lot of the teams. Dude, I don't think you're going to be there, man.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Like, just if that is the last time we were able to go in a professional locker rooms, like, will media credentials get cut short? Like, how is this going to look? I'm very interested to see how it affects our job, like, moving forward. What does life look like once it returns to society? Like, can we just go? Like, who's going to feel comfortable just going back to normal life? I mean, this is crazy what we're going through, man, and it's not even ended yet. So it's crazy times, man. It really is.
Bro, I told my friend that today. I'm like, okay, so if they do the NBA playoffs, like what I just said, no media, no anybody, just essential team people in security or whatever, and everything goes on without a hitch, which it probably will. The NFL draft was great. What does that do for us going forward, man? And as for media too, we've already started to see it with podcasts. How many NBA players have their own podcasts now? And they're just doing it on their own.
Right.
They don't need us anymore. They can get it out themselves. And once the NBA figures that out, what happens to locker room access? Because once they figure out, well, and plus maybe I don't want them in the locker room. They might be dirty, So then maybe only everything is a press conference after games from now on, and you can't get within 10 feet of a dude. Like, I think this could change our lives drastically as far as work goes from now on.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of people already being laid off, and great journalists as well. It's crazy times, but I think journalists are essential because we tell the truth.
Yep.
I mean, it's all that stuff is great, all the other player run sites, but it's not the truth though. Like, you're not
Right.
getting the facts. I mean, like,
Right.
journalists are essential to a society, so I think we always gonna be needed, and I think the ones that really do their jobs great, they're always gonna have a place to work. But yeah, but anyway, still like you said, it's still gonna be tough. I mean, with access, because even the greatest journalists, if you don't have access,
Right.
you can't write nothing. So
No.
it's gonna be weird. Like, I'm really interested to see how this works.
No, absolutely, man. And no, I don't think we're all going away, but it may be a cut. Like, there may be not the same amount of jobs as there was. And plus, man, I remember it in 08, 09. I had a couple of job opportunities in bigger cities for less money than I was making in Flint, Michigan, because the economy just crashed.
Yeah.
And, I think that's going to be huge too, man. Ad dollars obviously are in the toilet. I think some of these salaries are going backwards or they're getting froze. Man, obviously we got to get through this first before we think of that. But
Yeah.
man, it's crazy times ahead, man. This ain't going to be done.
Nah.
This
That's
is
why I
not
say
going to
it's
be
so
done.
much to sort out. Like, how can you just? I know everybody want to play, and I'm not trying to, be a downer or anything like that. But it's in some ways it's reality. Like, how can this all be pulled off in this short amount of time and still have guys motivated to want to play again? I mean, they can talk all they want about wanting to play, but you laying around for 2 months doing in-home drills. I mean, like, how can you be motivated to want to play the game and it still be a quality basketball? Like, I bet a lot of these guys have never went this long in their professional career without shooting the ball.
Yep.
Guys don't even have hoops, or they might have a portable hoop, but it's not the same as like working out in a facility. That's two total different things.
Well, I know you've seen some dudes, and we got some local dudes that look like they're playing quite a bit. But yeah, it's not the same. But for every one of those dudes that is doing that, there's dudes who aren't doing anything right now. There are dudes that have gained 10 pounds because they're not doing anything or more. There are, and they're going to get exposed, and people don't realize that either. Man, they can't just jump back into the season here, man. They got to have a couple weeks training camp again. They're going to have to.
I would say almost a month, man, honestly.
Yeah. And what happens if somebody gets sick, dude?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's such a liability. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's such a liability to take that risk. And is that worth it ultimately? Like, at this point, like, is it worth trying to get 15,000 tests? To test guys every day or every other day, or, as soon as they have a fever or being a little too hot, or, it's so many different scenarios. That's why I'm not the commissioner, I guess, because it's going to be a lot, to really make that decision.
Yeah, well, and the first thing you said, man, 15,000 tests, and that's something I don't think many people hasn't even popped into their head. And as soon as it does, there will be major backlash. There will be a bunch of rich dudes get their tests so they can play their little game.
Right.
Well, people are out here dying. That's what's going to be said by a lot of people. And it's hard. Like, I can't argue that, like, obviously the NBA and sports are very important to this whole nation, to the economy, to mental health, man. It gives us something to do, man.
Right.
Gives people an escape from all of this. But at the same time, man, I can see it. I can see that backlash immediately once people realize, wait, I don't have a test, but they have one for every day.
Right. And it's not like it's just going to go away. Like, it's not like, okay, now it's the stay-at-home orders are lifted. Oh, coronavirus is over. Like, it doesn't just go away. Like, how can you prevent that? Even if you're all under a bubble, like, you cannot prevent it. It's going to be tough. Like I guess that's why I'm not the commissioner of the NBA, because I don't have the answers at all right now.
No. And I think a lot of people are in denial about amateur athletics right now, man. I mean, I don't see how we play high school football. How do we do that, man? How do we make kids go out and touch each other, sweat on each other, drool on each other, roll around another dude's spit? Like, how are we going to make 16-year-olds do that? And even college, they're not getting paid. Like, how are we going to make them go do that?
Right.
Especially if they're not in school.
Right. That's the big thing I'm worried about too. Cause like, obviously me having a son, being kindergartner, going to first grade next year, how does school even end? We don't have an end to this. Like, they're doing home Zoom stuff here and there, but how do you figure out if a kid passed? What if they were behind back then and could have turned it around?
Yeah.
How does school look moving forward? That's what I'm saying. Society is not even taken care of. So thinking about sports is really difficult. Like,
Yeah. They're not
even
ready.
as much as I love sports, I love basketball. That's my whole life, literally. But
Right.
I want to make sure society is okay, a little more than I want to see, sports.
Yeah, I'm close to kids around here, man. And, I hear, oh, yeah, we have assignments and they're due whenever or whatever. Like, okay, so are you just going to pass then? Like, as long as you did it, do you pass? Like, and how long does this go? And how many kids in our society are like, now, I'm one, unless you're in statistics or something. It really wasn't essential to my life to have math with letters in it. You know what I mean? Like, that didn't do anything for me. But there are people that it does. And are we going to be growing up with a bunch of kids that aren't as smart as they should be because they missed 6 months of real work or whatever it ends up being? Right now it's 2.5. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe that's like a massive leap, but they can't be getting the same amount of schooling, amount of education, and getting through their head the same way it was.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe that's just me.
I mean, kids, you can sit in this big package home, but I mean, most parents are not spending 8 hours out of their day or 6 or 7, really teaching the kids the way that they're supposed to be.
Right.
At some point, you're going to be, a little frustrated or, some parents might not remember it. It's a lot that comes along with that. It's a lot of pressure to put on parents as well.
Yeah, what if they don't know? Like I said, if some kid brought algebra to me, sorry, pal. You better hope your mom knows.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
You're screwed, man. Have you heard of Google?
Right.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to, like, I swear to God, if I had a kid, I wouldn't be able to help him with that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, now that we've solved all the world's problems, man, I want to do an Eric Woodyard podcast at another time, man. But
definitely.
If you can, let's wrap this up with just how you're doing, what are you doing, and tell everybody literally how this happened a little bit if you can. I talked to you this summer, and boom, it was quick.
Yeah, life changed.
And you were there, man.
Yeah,
just maybe walk us through the Reader's Digest version, and then another time we can get into all of it.
Yeah, just quick story. So I graduated from Western Michigan in 2010, December of 2010. I was offered 2 positions coming out of college. One was to be a production assistant at ESPN, and one was to work at the Flint Journal. I tell Chris Broussard this all the time. I call him. I met him through NABJ. He probably didn't even know me from a can of paint, but we talked a little bit there, and a lot of guys serve as mentors being there. So he gave me his number. I called him on the phone, and I asked him, what should I do? It's an ESPN position open. That was production assistant, which was just getting your foot in the door, but it's ESPN, Yep. And the other one was the Flint Journal, my hometown paper. He said, man, go back to your hometown. And he said, if you're good enough, they're going to come, ESPN come get you, down the line. I'm thinking he's just talking, but I took his advice. I came back to Flint, worked home for 6 years, hit lightning in the bottle, obviously with Monte, coming up, and Cool's coming up, and Clarissa Shields and Mark Ingram going to the league, and Anthony Durrell being world champion. Like, we was having a renaissance of talent coming back in the league at that time. So, I felt like I did everything I could do on that level. I was looking to get to the next level, and was offered a position out in Salt Lake City, Utah. Everybody thought I was crazy. The hell you going to Utah for?
Yep.
What's there? Once again, hit lightning in the bottle. Donovan Mitchell getting drafted. Nobody expected him to do what he did. Experiencing the Jazz make 2 back-to-back playoff appearances. And then the summer, I was expecting to come back to, Salt Lake City to get my 3rd season with the Jazz. And ESPN reached out. I went through the process, about a 2-month process, and they offered me the job, man. And it was like the least thing I expected. And now I'm, on the level that I'm on and still working like I'm an intern for ABC 12,
Yep.
Same way I was working. None of the, I don't feel like I've arrived or made it. I still got so much more work to do. I understand my talent and my gift, but I can always get better, man. That's kind of, where I got to where I'm at now.
Every day, man, every single day. And, man, that's why I knew you were special from the get-go, because you always, no matter what, you always called me. With ESPN, you're talking to me, man. You always are trying to learn. And you can, man. You can learn every day. Like, whatever. Dude, I learn crap every day. And someone says something in a press conference, I'm like,
I should have asked that. Yeah, I
man,
should have done
and the
this
way
different.
yes, but then you learn, you realize how he asked it, the words, the specific used, and how he said it. Like whatever it is, man, you can learn something. You watch somebody else in the way they put a story together, and like, okay, I'm gonna bite that a little bit, and then I'm gonna
Put my
turn
own
it.
little swag
Yeah,
on it.
yes. I
Yeah.
mean, absolutely, man, and that's why you are where you are right now, man. And everybody's proud of you, man. Like
Appreciate it, man.
for
Seriously.
real. Like,
Seriously.
I mean, you never would have thought that
It's
day in that
crazy.
locker room with Kobe.
I know that it's funny now that I'm older, and if somebody was my age doing that, I would probably have the same reaction. You know,
Yeah.
just being a young kid and somebody trying to get LeBron like that, or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's funny now looking back on it, but honestly, man, that moment, was so special, and maybe things would have been different had Kobe been a jerk to me. So I mean, luckily he was great to me. And
Yeah.
that inspired me to go even more further at that point, because I saw that I can connect with the greatest. For me, that was the best player in the NBA at that time. So if I can connect with him and talk to him, it's nobody else that I don't feel uncomfortable with nobody else at that point.
Yeah. Well, and I just thought you were in for a rude awakening. I knew you must be doing something right because you were whatever 19, sophomore, junior, and you're writing for Slam magazine at that point. So I'm like, he must be doing something right.
Yeah.
And talking to you throughout that game, we barely paid attention to the game.
Yeah.
We were sitting there talking that whole time.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh man, he's and man.
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
Yeah, a lot of these dudes are great dudes too, but a lot of them, you find out that some of them aren't. And when they're in that element, you're going to get, for whatever reason, man, he made us wait. Remember that, dude? Yeah. We waited like an hour.
We waited so long, man. Rest in peace to Kobe, man. I say that, even that small little encounter, just those minutes or whatever it was, still has an impact on me, man. And thankful I got to share that experience with you guys, man. I remember y'all recording and stuff, and that meant a lot, man, to have that, especially being that young. And once I knew I could talk and connect with him, at that point it's nobody else, because it's the guy who I grew up idolizing and watching and studying the mentality and using some of the things he did in my profession. So that helped me a lot, not even knowing at the time that it would.
Absolutely, man. And I will tell more of that story and pop that picture up. I don't think I have the video anymore, but we definitely have a still frame of the picture. We'll throw that up. And you mentioned Flint, man, and I don't want to get into everything, man, but my gosh, look at what Flint's doing right now on the national level, on the world stage. I want to talk to you, and you're part of that, and I want to talk to you about that and just more about your story coming up, man, because, you just left. You were in Salt Lake, or like, okay, and then boom, you're at Miles Bridges camp.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, you're at ESPN, man, just like that, and you were gone. So people at home haven't had a chance to hear from you yet, and all of that stuff. And I want to talk about Flint and the NBA and everything, because you're right, it is a renaissance, man, and the glory days are now. As far as I'm concerned. The glory days are now, and I want to talk to you about all that stuff next time we hook up, man. And luckily, neither of us are doing too much right now.
Yeah,
so
man, anytime, man. You can call me whenever. I'm a call away, man. You always been there for me, and I appreciate just sharing the advice, because a lot of reporters and veteran guys, they don't share information. They might feel like you coming for me, or even if it's two different ways. Like, no, a lot of people aren't as nice, man. So for you to take a mentorship role to me and embrace me with open arms and show me the game in a lot of ways, and being able to experience moments that left an impact on me as well. And I got to thank you just as much, man, because you guys could have easily not shared the information, because everybody don't do that.
Well, dude, and people did it for me. I'll give it to you. And then the thing with you too, though, is not only did you take it, you used it and applied it like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You can't teach that, man. You can't teach want. And you had want unlike anybody else. And again, it's not like I got gospel over here, man. I've done a lot of dumb things and screwed up a lot of things.
We all have.
But
we all have.
You give a little something and you take it, like we said, everything. You take a little of what Slocum said and take all of what Eric said, and you put it together and you got something great.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
man, people did it for me. So there is no way I would be where I was at without Ed Phelps, Greg Molson, half of the people behind the scenes, Ket Kasner, Kevin Wilson, dudes behind the scenes at Channel 12 who took a kid who probably shouldn't have been on TV for a while with a speech impediment and saw that I did the same thing. I worked my butt off, and they're like, all right, we're going to help this dude because he has something. And it's my job to do that for the next dude. And if they don't take it, okay, we move on. But
move on. Yeah, you got to trust the process. I think that's the biggest thing for, you know, younger reporters or the younger generation or whatever you do. Embrace and trust the process wherever you are. It don't matter, you know, if you go into a high school game or high school tennis game. It was games I didn't even know nothing about, but I would take the time to call the coach and be like, hey, what's going on? So I can come into this with some type of information and try to bring something to the table instead of just going in, you know, blindfolded and just say, hey, I don't want to spend my Saturday night and I'm 23 years old at a tennis game out in Finland.
Right.
I might not want to do that, but it's part of my job, and I'm going to take the challenge to do that until I get to where I want to be, which is, for me, I always wanted to cover the NBA. So you got to take the steps, trust the process, and it'll all pay off if you got the drive and determination to do it.
Yeah, and you just perfectly wrap this entire thing up because it's the very first thing you said from the get-go. If you can do a story during this pandemic, you can do anything. If you can cover a ninth grade tennis player at Holly High School, you can write the story about Giannis scoring 40. I said that my whole life too. I'm like, I started in Flint, and I almost wish I started up north in the Marquettes covering hunting or fishing or something like that. I'm like, man, if I can do this, I can definitely do that. Because those stories a lot of times write themselves, man. But you nailed it, dude, as you always do, man.
Well, man, I appreciate you, man. I thank you for having me, man. You know, anytime you want to call or anything, I'm here, man. So nothing but love this way.
Oh, dude, you know it, man. And hey, let's do it soon. I want everybody people want to know, man. People want to know a little bit about what's going on, and maybe if you got any stories that you can tell.
Yeah, definitely.
I know there's a few you can't. If there's a couple you can, man. Let's get them out there, man.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime, man.
Appreciate you, dude. Take care. Glad everybody's safe. Kid go to bed. He disappeared.
Yeah, he's been back here dunking on his hoop, man. He just got a couple different hoops. So he got a new one indoor and he got one outside. So he's just a little sports junkie right now. I'm trying to just keep him on the right path right now.
Well, dude, I'm never gonna get rid of you because every time I say something, I think of something else. What's he think about all this? Does he know? I'm sure he knew Michael Jordan, but what's he think now that he's seeing this stuff?
He really loved Mike. You know, that's his favorite. It's funny, he's only 6, but he was watching Space Jam pretty much since he was like 2 or 3 years old. So, Jordan kind of piqued his curiosity in the game. Like, he started watching it. He didn't know what the term highlights was. He just knew, like, when Space Jam come on, like, what is that in the beginning? Like, I want to watch more of that. And I was like, that's called highlights. So he went from watching Jordan highlights to when I went out to Utah, being around Donovan and Rudy and those guys, being young. Like, I think the game that Donovan came back, it might have been last year. They played the Pistons, and he was walking off the court and just, like, took his jersey off and handed it to me. I'm like, dude, like, I'm in the media. I can't have your jersey. He's like, no, give it to my little man. Like, you know, make sure he get it and bring him in the locker room. So him being that young and being exposed to those type of things, I think for him it's just like normal to him, which is for me. I grew up in the 5th Ward on Avenue B in Flint. So, like, obviously we saw Mateen and Morris Peterson, but we wasn't seeing, like, all-stars in the league and being around Giannis and get a pair of shoes and stuff like that. And it's just a different, you know, he kind of has a different he growing up different, you know, for me, my job being able to benefit him. And I just wanted to be more so for him that he don't feel like he's pressured to be this great basketball player, and more so just understand, like, hey, you know, this is the hard work that dad is doing, and it's giving you opportunities. If you want to take it, but just strive for success. That's what we try to tell him all the time. Just try to, whether that's basketball or whatever it is, just try to be successful in your life.
Yeah, and you wrote that book about him and for him, and I want to get into that too, man, because that's so cool. I don't know where you have the time to do this stuff, man. That's the second book you've written. But, man, the kid, it's amazing when you see the videos. In the videos of, like you just mentioned, Donovan didn't have to do that, man. Like, he did it without – you didn't ask him. He just walked in his own head to do it. Giannis, I've seen Giannis walk up to the guy. And, you know, he didn't have to do that stuff. We got some good dudes in the league, man. And, man, they're lucky kid, man.
It's both. Yeah, he don't even understand right now, man. I just want to keep stuff normal and light for him and not really put too much pressure on him. Just let him have fun and be a kid. But also, he's developing his own work ethic, and I'm one proud dad with him.
Yep, you got it, man. I got a John Koncak autograph at the very first basketball game I ever went
He
to.
was
And
good.
John Koncak, baby. 7-foot guy.
It's still cool though. Like I had a Mateen autograph, I had a Mo P autograph. The guys here locally, but never like an NBA All-Star. Like he got a stuff that I'm a frame for him. I'm almost more shocked than him that he got it. It's like he's just like, I can play with these guys and I see him on TV and I got a jersey. Like he don't really know the significance behind the stuff.
Yeah, so. It's normal to him. Yeah. But that's going to be your job to maybe not normalize
we try to do that for him.
Yeah, because we know that ain't normal, man.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
It is not normal. I posted that Isaiah story the other day that when I got his autograph at Bill and Beer Night. Yeah, and it's amazing how many people that has, like, I don't know, drawn in. How many people are, because that isn't a normal thing, man. Like, especially when dudes are halfway across the court to come back after it's a special moment, man. A lot of us know that does not happen.
Yeah, it doesn't, man. I appreciate like everything, man. Especially if our job's moving forward, or how it might look. So it's making me appreciate those moments that much more because, we don't know what's gonna happen, and even just having this time off, it's just like, man, I really have an amazing job, and I need to appreciate that every single day because sometimes I get so consumed with I want to do this or this wasn't good enough. I could have did this different. So this has been like the first time I really sat back, like, wow, like. We really have an amazing job, and it can be taken away like that. So you got to appreciate it.
Bro, believe me. Believe me. And, last piece of advice from me, man, you nailed it, man. There are so many bad days. There are long nights. There are nights you don't feel you're appreciated. There are nights that you get writer's block and can't think of anything else. Man, we are doing, even as bad as it is, dealing with people all the time, which can't be fun sometimes.
Right, definitely.
And you got to think, I am in the NBA.
Yeah.
I made it to the NBA. I am in the NBA. Okay, definitely. I'm not playing. I'm in it.
I'm there every day.
I'm at every game.
Yeah, it's crazy. You see legendary players you idolize walking around normal, and, you just keep your professionalism. But it's like when you get home sometimes it's definitely crazy. Like, wow, I really just had this conversation with LeBron James. It's just like normal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's stuff like that coming from where we come from is you have to can't take it for granted. You got to really cherish those moments.
No, you can't, dude. You cannot take it for granted, and don't ever forget it. And if you catch your stuff starting to forget it a little bit, immediately think of something great. Immediately, I always do that. I tell people, man, when I go speak at schools or whatever, I'm like, man, okay, get this, right? Charles Barkley has never been in an NBA locker room for a world championship. Patrick Ewing has never been in a locker room for a chance. Go down Giannis right now has not been.
Right.
Ryan Slocum has.
Right.
Ryan Slocum's been in the middle of a champagne fight for his team. You know.
Right.
Just immediately think of that, or think about Donovan giving your kid a jersey, and that's a reflection on them being good dudes, but it's also even a bigger reflection on you. Because these guys respect what you did. They respect that you're fair to them, and they know you're a good writer. They're obviously reading your stuff, and they like you. So more than anything, that's a reflection on what you've done. And, man, I'm proud of you, dude.
Man, I appreciate it, man.
Amazing.
Yeah, I needed to hear this tonight, man. Obviously, we're going through tough times, and, just having the conversation is, being able to, watch that and have this conversation with you. I definitely needed it tonight, so I appreciate it, man.
Dude, Papa Sloke is always here. Nah, man, you took it and you ran, bro. And we're gonna do more of this later. It's getting late, and it's gonna take forever to upload this. So, but man, hope you're doing good. Hopefully, man. I get to see you soon, man. Hopefully, we can get out and do something.
Get back to society and stuff. Get back, man. So until then, we just all just chilling right now. So
yes, sir. Well, all right, man. I'll be checking with you pretty soon. And everybody, thank you for watching. We're going to roll out to a little of this John Connor, another Flintstone doing big things. I don't know if you've heard this yet, man.
I listened to it. Yeah, shout out to John Connor, man. I'm proud of him and happy that, he finally got his art out, man. I can imagine the feeling of having to hold his art for that long. And, whatever the situation was, I'm not sure. But, I'm just happy that he able to, release his art out to the world, release this project. So shout out to him, man.
And fire, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, and I've been with him while he's making this. No skips. And and I knew it. And I'm listening and just going, oh, my gosh, this is fire. So, yeah, man, we're going to roll out to a little bit of John. Eric, thank you for taking time tonight, man. We'll see you soon. And everybody else, man, we'll definitely see you next Sunday night while we wrap up episodes 7 and 8. We'll see you then.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, E.
Yeah.